Here are the stories we're covering this week in the Category 5.tv newsroom. A password manager that gives your private passwords to any website comes pre-installed with Windows 10. A nonprofit in San Francisco is taking heat because their robot worker costs far less than a human. The FCC has voted to eliminate net neutrality rules, and Google will be using lasers instead of fiber to deploy high-speed internet in India. These stories are coming right up. Don't go anywhere.
Whether you shop on ThinkGeek, GearBest, B&H Photo Video, eBay, or Amazon, or even if you want a free trial of Audible, you'll find the best deals and support the shows we produce by simply visiting the shopping sites you already frequent by using the links on our website. Visit category5.tv/partners for the full and ever-growing list and help us create more free content like this show. Thank you for shopping with our partners, and thank you for watching.
This is the Category 5.tv newsroom, covering the week's top tech stories with a slight Linux bias.
I'm Sasha Rickman, and here are the top stories we're following this week. For about 8 days, some versions of Windows 10 bundled a password manager that contained a critical vulnerability within its browser plugin. The flaw was almost identical to the one that the same researcher had disclosed in the same manager plugin 16 months ago, which allowed websites to steal passwords. Google Project Zero researcher Tavis Ormandy, in a blog post Friday, has said that the Keeper password manager came pre-installed on a newly built Windows 10 system. When he tested this unrequested app, it prompted him to enable a browser plugin, and that plugin contained a bug that represents a complete compromise of Keeper security, allowing any website to steal any password. With only basic changes to selectors, Ormandy's old proof-of-concept exploit worked on the new Keeper plugin. His post linked to the publicly available proof-of-concept exploit, which steals an end user's Twitter password if it's stored in the Keeper app and the plugin is enabled. After the post went live, a Keeper spokesman said that the bug only affected version 11 of the app, which was released on December 6th, and only when a user followed Keeper prompts to install the browser plugin. They fixed the flaw in the just-released version 11.4 by removing the vulnerable functionality. The fix came 24 hours after Ormandy privately reported the flaw to Keeper. Well, at least they fixed it quickly. But,
at least.
Yeah.
Let's hope it wasn't exploited in the wild.
It seems like malicious action. Do you think it's accidental, or do you think that it's passwords, right? Like, do you
Let's
think somebody
get into the conspiracy theory aspect of this.
Right, like
Microsoft's products are closed source. I'm assuming the app is Microsoft. I'm not sure, but it comes with Windows 10 anyway.
It's a pre-installed app.
But it's closed source, so it's not like publicly open sourced application that can accidentally accept a PR or something and somebody can inject code.
So it would have to be somebody that's actually...
Or just an accident. Maybe there was it's just, whoops, a bug that allows the passwords in your password manager to be sent to any site.
Which is crazy.
I miss you, Password Box.
I feel like there's been enough Windows bugs over the years that I'm sure this is just nothing more than an oops.
An oopsie? It's the same, though, that happened 16 months ago. That's the thing.
Yeah.
16, not 15?
16 months ago, there was a bug that caused this. It was reported and fixed, and now here it is again. So what does that mean?
It can happen. I mean, it's a bad case because these are your private passwords. So
right.
You trust these applications. I don't use this, the Windows password management app, but
does anybody?
Does anyone? Do you? And are you affected by it? That's the question.
I don't use it simply because I don't like the idea of it possibly being used as a marketing thing. As weird as that sounds,
Windows, yeah.
If it's built into the Windows software, I'm sure there's some sort of marketing that comes with it.
We've seen your password is.
Right.
Well, I use LastPass, and the thought that comes to my mind is, and there have been little exploits here and there with LastPass and bugs and whatever else, but nothing that's revealing my passwords to any website that requests them.
Right.
Okay. But what would happen, and first of all, how does this happen, really? How are there not security measures in place when you are building a password management tool? It's like if you accept credit cards online, why are you storing them in plain text in a MySQL database? Like, it doesn't make sense. Why are you storing plain text passwords? There's no rhyme or reason to that. Why would you not pay special care to this? But what would happen? How would I feel if LastPass had such an exploit?
Mm-hmm. Well, and here's the thing. Now, I used Password Box,
yeah,
and then when it switched over to TrueKey, now I use TrueKey. But is that what happens then? Like, all of my trust, really, and all of my enthusiasm was in Password Box. Now they switched over. Mm-hmm. Now I just went along with it, right? But is the same trust I had in Password Box, is it the same that I should have in TrueKey, or is it, or like, you know what I mean? Like,
AKA McAfee.
I use Dashlane.
I've never even heard of Dashlane.
It's a subscription service.
Yes,
I love it. It's cross-platform, and it works on multiple devices. And if I create a password on one website, it syncs up with my account for any of my other devices. So,
like LastPass or Password Box or
same deal. But it's I find it seamless. I've tried getting into the database, and it's garbly-gook. You can't figure it out.
If Jeff can't hack it, folks,
it's unhackable.
I even brought out the hatchet.
You try turning it off and on again?
Oh boy, that's the one thing he didn't try. That's the best way to exploit a Windows operating
AI
system.
would tell me what to do.
Did you try just entering root and then pressing enter?
That's right. Sometimes that works.
Sometimes.
All right. A San Francisco animal shelter has announced it will no longer use a Nightscope security robot to patrol its office after a widely circulated report described the robot being used to deter nearby homeless encampments and rising crime. The San Francisco SPCA said that it has received hundreds of messages inciting violence and vandalism against their facility after the story of the robot went viral. In response to that pressure, the organization will seek a more fully informed, consensus-oriented local approach to the use of security robots. San Francisco authorities had already advised the SPCA to stop using the robot on sidewalks without proper approval. Mountain View-based Nightscope has said in a statement that the robot was not brought in to clear the area around the San Francisco SPCA of homeless individuals, but only to serve and protect the SPCA. The recent influx of tech companies and their high-paid employees has helped drive income inequality and make San Francisco the most expensive place to rent an apartment in the United States. Those underlying tensions have boiled over in protest against tech companies, including over private shuttles run by companies including Google. The San Francisco SPCA facility is located in a rapidly gentrifying neighborhood where inequality is particularly acute, contributing to the rise of homeless encampments on the sidewalks. The SPCA reported a recent rise in vandalism and theft, which it has said declined after the security robot was put into service. But in San Francisco's current context, the thought of using a high-tech robot to deter homeless people doesn't go over well. The robot could also be seen as taking a job from a human. The president of the SPCA earlier told the San Francisco Business Times that the robot cost just $6 an hour to rent, while San Francisco's minimum wage is $14 an hour. As a nonprofit, the cost of a human worker would be cost prohibitive. So while they are retiring the robot, they have no intention of hiring a person to take its place. Wow, that's a lot. Because it's not like the robot is taking the job of a human. Right? And it's an SPCA, right? So it's a non-profit, and they can't use a robot, which would really, no doubt, help. But it's because they can't use the robot because there's this homeless situation, and so there's homeless people all over the sidewalks. The problem is bigger than this robot, but the robot seems to be
definitely a sore spot.
Like the scapegoat or something.
What's not clear from this is, why are people upset? Like, how is the robot approaching the homeless.
Right.
What is it doing? Is it,
Lasers, Jeff.
Maybe it's
Lasers.
But is
from its freaking head.
is it doing something that's upsetting them, or is it just the presence of a robot?
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's probably the presence of a robot because, truth be told, what could it possibly be doing? It's just there to patrol the area.
It's a
right?
monitoring system. It's an advanced monitoring system. And realistically, in my view, I think it's not the robot that's causing
It's what the robot represents.
It's more what... Yeah, I mean, it's shedding light on a situation where tent cities are popping up and... The SPCA is having to bring in a robot in order to simply patrol. And it's getting vandalized and it's getting abused. And, you know, so there's all kinds. And San Francisco is already making a scene over robots accessing sidewalks and public areas and things like that.
Exactly. I mean, it's a hot spot for a story like this to come out of, right? But, I mean, if minimum wage is $14 an hour and it's a nonprofit organization, they're not going to be able to even say to one of the homeless people, hey, I'll pay you $6 an hour because it wouldn't be legal. They'd have to pay $14 an hour, whereas any one of those people would probably take the 6.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Yeah. Wow, it's a messy, touchy subject.
And we're really in that place, aren't we, where this is really going to start coming to light, I think, in more places as well.
Well, it's no different, really, than the story last week of the drone flying around after work, right? It's a machine that's affecting the behavior of the people, and now people are going to start feeling a little bit
What I find interesting about this, and maybe this is more of a tongue-in-cheek comment, it's the SPCA. Wouldn't the dogs be deterrent?
They're in cages.
The dogs, the dogs are inside. This is generally outdoors.
This is outdoor vandalism.
Yeah, probably, I would say.
Oh yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm just thinking hey, put up an attack dog on premises sign or something, and have somebody watch.
Jeff's solution is a violent one.
Let's not use robots. Let's use canines.
But it's the
and let's make them attack canines.
No. It's the psychology of it. You've got the sign up, and then you go to spray paint
and
a wall,
now
and suddenly dogs are barking. It's like, oh my
you've got
goodness.
all these poor kittens in the shelter that are scared out of their ever-loving minds because this attack dog is constantly barking at the homeless people.
Have you been to the SPCA here in Barrie?
That's where
I was in
got
just
our
a few
animal.
weeks ago, and they're barking all the time anyway.
Yeah,
you just have to do one of those Home Alone
attack.
recordings of remember that scene where it's just the shotguns and stuff?
Oh, yes. Yeah. There you go.
We just went downhill.
You've got 5 minutes to get your filthy, yellow, whatever.
They just need Macaulay Culkin to come on scene.
Oh, boy.
The Federal Communications Commission voted Thursday to deregulate the broadband industry and eliminate net neutrality rules that prohibit internet service providers from blocking and slowing internet traffic. Going forward, home and internet providers and mobile carriers will no longer be bound by strict net neutrality rules, but rather by whatever promises they choose to make. ISPs will be allowed to block or throttle internet traffic or offer priority to websites and online services in exchange for payment. As long as ISPs publicly disclose the blocking, slowing, or paid prioritization, they won't be violating any FCC rules. The Federal Trade Commission could punish ISPs if they make promises and then break them, but there's no requirement that the ISPs make promises in the first place. The FCC will have to defend its decision in court as pro-net neutrality groups plan to appeal. Advocates are also pushing Congress to reinstate net neutrality rules. So, do you think that this repeal will go through? Jeff?
Well, I mean,
it's a Jeff question. He works for the union.
This is a political answer at best, which we know always brings out a lot of opinions online. I mean, if you look at the way things have been going in the U.S. as far as changing of the rules, it's very business-centric.
Right.
Which was the platform that was
offered.
Exactly. And that's how Trump got elected. So this just falls in line with that. So it's a political answer. Is it going to get overturned? I don't know. The big question becomes, what is going to be the impact of it? Because we did have non-net neutrality. The net neutrality came in to curb some of these issues, Now you're taking it away. Is there going to be almost a Wild West type mindset amongst the big companies saying, hey, we've just had the leash taken off. Let's do this, and we're going to let everybody know we're doing it, so we're not breaking any rules. And that's going to be the big thing, is whether it's appealed or not remains to be seen, but what is the fallout from this, and how far is it going to go before people go, whoa, 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 put some reins on this, and what happens then?
Right.
That's what I'm interested to see. When you, I mean, whether you're for or against regulations, when you put restrictions on something, it changes the way that you play. When you remove restrictions, sky's the limit, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays
really
out.
tough to know. Really tough to know right now, because I think that if my ISP was throttling the services that I use and making it so that they're not functioning very well,
What happens then?
then I would switch ISPs.
Right.
So they're going to lose my business.
Right.
Right.
So now it's the deregulation just simply means that the ISP has to now make wise decisions for their customers. So, you know, there's two sides of it. And maybe it boils down to, is the ISP a moral company? Are they, obviously they're in this to make money, but would turning down the speed, the throughput of BitTorrent to a reasonable level, thinking of QoS, quality of service, would turning it down a bit help those who are watching on Netflix be able to watch with better experience? And if yes, then that's quality of service.
Right.
We're restricting something that you're going to let this run overnight anyways, and whether it takes 5 minutes or 5 hours probably doesn't make much of a difference to you. But the person sitting there watching a 4K video on Netflix is going to be impacted by that spinning wheel that says they don't have enough bandwidth.
Right.
So there's really two sides to it.
But if I recall correctly, when the whole net neutrality thing came in several years ago, was it not because people were finding that their Netflix in particular was throttled by certain ISPs?
Right.
And what happens now? Is this going to affect viewership? And does it now open up the door for the services like Netflix or any of your streaming services to start going into business deals with certain ISPs to say, look, you know, we'll cut you a portion of the revenue of all of your subscribers who use our service if you don't throttle.
And now we're going to start seeing, hey, if you buy our service, you'll get better Netflix.
Right.
Because it's actually throttled that way.
It'll be interesting to see, though, if
It
somebody
could
comes
happen.
out and says, hey, we're unthrottled. Our service is, it's everything, you know, and is that going to be a marketing gimmick now?
Right. Probably.
Wow.
And how
Makes
is this going to
sense.
affect prices?
So understand this, the impact here is simply that the ISPs now have the choice. So we're not saying, and nobody's saying, Netflix is going to start buffering, or Category 5 is no longer going to be viewable in HD because they don't have enough money to pay the ISPs for the better bandwidth.
Right.
That's probably, I can't see that happening because it's still the internet. And if it's not working, I'm going to change ISPs. But the fact is now the ISPs will have the legal right to make those decisions.
Right.
It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah,
This is one of
definitely.
those ones where I feel like popping some popcorn, sitting back, and just watching the show.
Yeah. It's too tricky for me to make a decision on how exactly I feel, except that I never imagined it would be an issue. Like, I didn't actually know that net neutrality was a thing until it was...
Well, we're here in Canada.
Yeah.
And we have net neutrality rules in
Here.
place that protect us, even though the states are going through this. But it's a finicky thing, too. You know, Bell is fighting that with the CRTC, and we could see it say bye-bye as well.
Right.
And then it's going to impact us as well.
The one thing that I was thinking about as I've watched this play out over the last couple of weeks is, what about things like online shopping? Online shopping is huge right now. So you get, and like with Boxing Day deals coming up and like cyber deals, is this going to open the door to say, hey, we're going to partner with this online retailer, so we won't throttle your purchases here, but if you go to this one, we're going to slow it down, so when you're trying to process your order, And there's limited
Again.
quantity.
You hope that isn't it. It's the same with
Yeah.
like buying tickets.
Again,
things like
they
that,
have
right?
the
Like-
legal right to do that, but would they?
Yeah,
It would be silly for them to
it
do
would
that.
be silly.
If it
Silly.
produces
Don't be
dollars,
silly. Do not be silly.
Jeff, that's silly.
if it
Don't be
produces
silly.
dollars, it'll be, and especially if it turns into revenue for.
It's not going to produce dollars if I say, you know what, your service stinks. I'm going to switch providers to somebody who
correct.
works with Amazon or whoever.
Whomever, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Here's a good story. Google will be using lasers instead of fiber to deploy high-speed internet in India. There are two main components to getting an entire nation online, the last mile and the backbone. The often talked about last mile is the final piece of the puzzle, the cable running to each house or the wireless link between your cell phone and a nearby tower. But in order for that last mile to work, it has to be hooked up to something. Normally, that means a dedicated fiber line running from the cell tower to a local exchange, which is time-consuming and costly to run. So, faced with the challenge of bringing rural India online, Google is trying something very different. Alphabet, Google's parent company, has entered into an agreement with India's government to provide high-speed wireless internet to millions of residents using a point-to-point laser connectivity system. Reuters reports. The system will reportedly involve 2,000 boxes installed in total, with some up to 12 miles apart. Some kind of optical system, which essentially means lasers, will be used to connect the boxes together. The system will provide a backbone for cell towers and Wi-Fi hotspots, which will allow residents to access the internet using basic smartphones. The optical data links have a capacity of up to 20 gigabits, according to Alphabet, far more than traditional radio wave systems that they currently have can achieve. The project is a spin-off of Alphabet's Project Loon, a concept that uses giant floating balloons to distribute wireless internet to rural areas. The optical link technology might be related directly to Loon, although Alphabet hasn't provided any details to that effect.
So I don't know who is keeping track for the Category 5 dictionary, but radio raves is new.
Oh,
I heard that too.
sorry. Okay.
Jot it down. Jot it down.
So when I was younger, I used to have a really bad speech impediment, and I couldn't say my R's.
Put me on a guilt trip.
No, I could. Okay, this is an important
Well
story
played.
because I've come so far. I couldn't say my R's at all,
Yeah.
and so I went to a speech pathologist, and I was like 10 or 11, like embarrassingly old by the time I could say my R's. But in order to pass my class for my speech pathologist, I had to stand in front of the class and read a book called Ronald the Race Car Driver.
Oh my. Way to initiate her.
And
Oh, you did great, Sash.
Yeah, thanks.
Don't get me wrong.
Now I read the news, and it's crazy for me because there are R's in like every word.
Like radio waves.
Yeah. That's a big one.
Crazy one.
Anyway,
So back on topic.
Yes.
sorry.
So we've got
Sorry, guys.
lasers for point-to-point communications.
Yes, and this would solve the Australia problem where they're eating the line.
Just try to eat through my lasers, you cockatoos.
Okay. I love the story. I love the potential that comes with this. And I think of all those remote areas that are stuck on, especially in Canada, satellite service. Where
Right.
they need
Right.
satellite internet.
But that's what, FM? Or
No, it's a different frequency.
something else? Okay. 802.11 of some sort? Or,
Yeah, I used to install satellite internet dishes, and I forget all the details. But something like this could be very effective. But at the same time, I'm thinking of the report that just came out this week from, I think it's California. Hey, don't keep your cell phones in your pocket. Don't have your cell phones beside your bed because of the radio waves and the cancer-causing agents and blah, blah, blah. Now we're shooting lasers everywhere.
Well, you think about the speed of fiber optic cable, right?
Right.
A laser is basically fiber optic without the cable.
Right. But is somebody going to turn around and say, I potentially have become ill because you've been shooting lasers through my body when I didn't ask for it to be in? And
They're probably above the shooting
sure,
through.
yeah.
Like it's, I
Pardon
would
me.
say.
maybe.
But would they be affected by weather and stuff? Like I'm
Or
looking here.
wildlife.
Sure, yeah.
Cherrapunji has a subtropical climate in India with Looks like the city's yearly rainfall is 11,777 millimeters. It's a lot of rain.
That's a lot.
And rain, as we know, will affect line of sight communication. And laser, think about a raindrop going through a laser and how that would affect it. It would just scatter the beam.
Right.
So,
but if they didn't have internet before, right, then any amount would be...
Don't complain. You can't expect to surf the web when it's raining and you're stuck
ISP.
inside.
What's the possibility of stealing internet this way?
Oh, boy.
With
You'd have to
mirrors?
redirect
The laser beam.
Oh, goodness me. That would be
But I mean, if it's transmission, I mean, could you using... I don't know how it works. I'm just...
Nah, as soon as you intercept that, they're going to know because it's been cut off. So the receiving point is no longer receiving the signal.
Right.
So, but yet you're still pulling throughput. So, nah, I couldn't. You know,
it's a cool concept regardless. I mean, we've got what is it down in South America? You've got, I think it's Google is doing drones for internet. Now we got lasers for internet. I think at one point I heard that there was like balloons for internet.
That's Project Loon. That's balloons. Yeah.
Yeah, like.
Then Facebook has got their drone, the big drone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, hey, how else can you get?
Well, they're looking for cool
Pigeons.
ways. Yeah, they're looking for technological ways that are achievable now to bring internet to areas that can't normally have it. And fiber through the air would be very fast.
Absolutely.
You know, compared to the copper cables that they would probably have to run.
And so much cheaper.
Much cheaper. You've got the transmitters and receivers. And everything else in between is God-given.
Now, lasers don't have degradation over distance, do they?
Well, I suppose they would through fog and rain and things like that. But if it's line of sight clarity... Oh, yes.
So, but I mean, like...
degradation? Like, no, you could... If it's strong enough, you can shoot that laser to the
moon?
space station.
Well, okay, but that's where my thought's going. I mean, you've got...
so you could have internet on the moon?
Yes. Somebody just announced, I think it was last week, that they're going to put a colony on the... Was it Japan said they're going to put a colony on the moon?
Oh, yeah?
Or maybe it was...
I didn't hear that.
Maybe it was
That's
an
cool.
order from Trump. I read it last week.
Somebody knows. Somebody's going to
Somebody wants to go back to the moon and they want to try starting a colony and then launch from there to go to Mars.
I heard the NASA rules have changed based on Trump's order.
Okay,
but,
so maybe that's
related?
Yeah, but I mean, how cool would that be to have...
Internet.
Internet
high
to
speed.
the moon.
Sure. They're already doing
Hey, let's
stuff.
get internet to Mars. via
I'm
laser.
thinking about the connection between continents and how we're still very dependent on the underwater cable.
Yes.
Right.
And that's fantastic in the back. You know, it's been really quite good considering, you know, holy cow, they ran a lot of cable.
Can you encrypt laser transmission?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Because it's a data transmission and
Yeah,
reception.
okay, that's
so,
true. Fair enough.
Yeah, you encrypt it on the transmitting end and boom.
That's cool. I
Very neat
like
story.
this story. I think it's
I
kinda
like it
neat.
too.
What do you think? We're out of time.
No. Big thanks to Roy W. Nash and our community of viewers for submitting stories to us this week. Thanks for watching the Category 5.tv newsroom. Don't forget to like and subscribe for all your tech news with a slight Linux bias. And for more free content, be sure to check out our website. From the Category 5.tv newsroom, I'm Sasha Rickman.